Pixel art RPGs are, in my opinion, one of the best combinations on Android. You don't need a very powerful phone, your device doesn't heat up much while playing, and most of the time you don't lose any quality compared to other games. However, I know it can be pretty hard to find some of these games on the Play Store. That's why in this video I'm going to show you the 15 best pixel art RPGs on Android, so drop a like and come with me. Let's start this list with a game that came straight from PC, bringing a really interesting mix of elements, and let's talk about Hero Siege. It's a game that blends action RPG, hack and slash and roguelike elements, all wrapped in a very detailed pixel art aesthetic. The game offers a huge variety of classes, more than 15 each one, with its own skill tree and playstyle. You've got more traditional classes like the Mage, for example, and also very specific ones like the Viking. The heart of the game is item collection. There are different item rarities from common to much rarer drops, so a lot really comes down to luck. The game truly shines in online multiplayer, allowing you to play with up to 4 friends. On top of that, Hero Siege uses a season system, even though the game is fully playable offline. LUNARLUX is an action-adventure RPG with an anime-inspired aesthetic that brings back the nostalgia of the Game Boy Advance era, and it's kind of hidden on the Play Store. The game takes place in the year 3000 on the Moon. 1,000 years ago, humanity was forced to abandon Earth after a planetary catastrophe known as Astra. Now, humankind's new home is under threat from an antimatter comet called Coda. You play as Bella, an optimistic and courageous lunar warrior who travels across the moon alongside her robot companion Tetra, searching for a way to save humanity before the comet arrives. The combat system is a creative mix of turn-based mechanics and real-time action, clearly inspired by games like Mega Man Battle Network and Undertale. One of LUNARLUX's biggest charms is how dense and alive its world feels, from the many characters you can interact with to exploring the moon itself, including traveling around in lunar vehicles, for example. It's really hard to start playing this game and not end up sinking at least 100 hours into it. Let's talk about one of the most addictive games ever, MOONLIGHTER. The game is famous for blending two genres that seem like complete opposites but work perfectly together: action RPG and management simulator. In the game, you control Will, a merchant from the village of Rhinoka who inherited his family's shop but secretly dreams of becoming a hero. The game is divided into a very well-defined day and night cycle. At night, your character dives into dungeons to level up and obtain new gear, just like in a traditional RPG. But during the day, you sell the rare equipment you don't need in your shop, trying to balance and achieve both of these dreams. With the money you earn, you don't just upgrade your shop, you also improve your character. It's a true two-way system, and that's exactly why this game feels so perfectly designed. A lot of people don't know this, but one of the most famous pixel art RPGs in the world actually has an Android version. Let's talk about OCTOPATH Traveler. Unlike the main console entries, this is a free-to-play game with gacha elements, but it still maintains the same visual quality and narrative depth that made the series so popular. The game takes place on the continent of Orstera, but it works as a prequel, meaning it happens before the events of the first OCTOPATH Traveler. Honestly, I personally know this game, but I never really went deep into the story, so I felt a bit lost at times. That said, I've seen a lot of comments from players saying that the story is very faithful to the original game. The combat system is where the biggest mechanical difference comes in compared to the console versions. Instead of controlling 4 characters, you control 8 characters, along with turn switching and some mobile exclusive mechanics as well. If you're into pure skill-based combat, fast combos and beautiful pixel art, you really need to check out a game called OTHEWORLD Legends. The story places you in the Mirage of Asurendra, a mystical dimension where the greatest warriors from different eras and worlds are summoned to face a series of trials. But honestly, the story is mostly just a backdrop for an insane roguelike with intense, fast-paced gameplay. During each run, you collect passive items that can be combined in different ways. You can create builds focused on critical damage, summoning allies, elemental effects, and that's where the RPG side of the game really shines. To be completely honest, this game feels much more like a roguelike with RPG elements than an RPG with roguelike mechanics. There are many characters, each with a completely different playstyle, and there's also the option to play in co-op mode. Unfortunately, you won't find this game on the Play Store, but it's actually very easy to download. Let's talk about the Pokemon MMORPG called PokeMMO. Unlike many other fan-made games, PokeMMO doesn't create a brand new world from scratch. Instead, it combines the original Pokemon games into a single client, bringing everything together in one shared experience. PokeMMO is technically an advanced emulator. To play, you need to download the client from the official website and provide the ROMs of the original games yourself. The game isn't just Pokemon Online, it changes several mechanics to properly balance the MMO experience, from increased NPC difficulty to real cooperation with other players. You'll see hundreds of players running around the map. You can challenge them to duels at any time, join clans, and take part in official tournaments. The game is very popular on PC and is one of the most famous Pokemon projects out there, and almost nobody knows that it also has an Android version. Rookie Reaper is an indie action RPG that's been gaining attention in the mobile community for delivering a very unique experience, and now let's talk about it. You take on the role of a Reaper who has just awakened in a world of corrupted souls. Your mission is to hunt down the 5 corrupted immortals to restore balance. The game is heavily focused on open world exploration and technical skill-based combat. The game openly draws inspiration from the Dark Souls series, which means it features an absurd level of difficulty, a dodge-focused combat system where positioning really matters, and an almost permadeath-like structure that will absolutely drive you crazy at times. For a solo indie game, the amount of content and variety is impressive, from different maps to explore and missions to complete, to a wide range of weapons that can have 20 to more than 40 different stat modifiers, allowing you to deeply customize your Reaper character. I remember playing this game back in around 2014 on Android, one of the very first games I ever had, and somehow it magically came back in 2025. Now let's talk about Soulstone of Life. It's an absolute classic from the golden era of mobile action RPGs. Developed by Audi Arts, the game follows the same style as legendary titles like Zenonia and Anochia, which we'll also talk about here. The game lets you choose between 4 distinct classes, each one drastically changing how you approach combat. Customization is deep. You can equip runes on your weapons and armor, use upgrade stones to strengthen your gear, and even visually change your hero as you swap equipment. One of the main standouts of Stone of Life is the blade system. Blades are summonable monsters that fight alongside you. Aside from that, it's a more classic RPG without many modern twists, but that's exactly what makes it feel so unique and special. Stellar Traveler is an adventure RPG with idle mechanics that immediately stands out thanks to its pixel art visual style. The game takes place on the planet Parola, a futuristic world where humanity faces the threat of mechanical beasts. It's clearly inspired by Octopath Traveler, especially when it comes to its beautiful visuals. Although it may look like a traditional RPG at first glance, the main focus of Stellar Traveler is convenience and passive progression. Your units fight automatically, and your primary role is a strategic one, choosing the best formation of 5 heroes and positioning them correctly. There are more than 40 unique heroes to collect. The game is known for being very generous at the beginning, offering plenty of free summons early on, which might be both its best quality and its biggest flaw at the same time. In the end, it's a very generic idle game, but also very well made in equal measure. Well, maybe one of the most interesting and underrated games on this list. I'm personally in love with this one because I'm a huge fan of tactical RPGs. Let's talk about Sword of Convalaria. It's widely considered the spiritual successor to classics like Final Fantasy Tactics and Tactics Ogre, bringing that classic grid-based strategy gameplay into the modern era. Sword of Convalaria has a unique structure that really sets it apart from other mobile games. It features a single-player mode that is essentially a complete game on its own with a full story-focused campaign. On the other side, it also has an MMO-style mode packed with online content, events, and activities, including gacha elements. During battles, you can push enemies off cliffs to instantly defeat them, explode gunpowder barrels, or even set grass on fire to deal continuous damage. And on top of all that, visually, it's without a doubt one of the most beautiful games on this entire list. Tales of BLOOMRISE is a Brazilian action-adventure RPG developed by the indie studio Whiskline Studio, and it's incredibly charming. Let's talk about it now. You play as Ray, a young adventurer who lives in the peaceful village of BLOOMRISE. What starts as a calm, quiet life soon turns into a major journey when ancient secrets and dangerous dungeons begin to emerge beneath the surface of the village. Much like MOONLIGHTER, the game blends 2 core elements, but here the focus is on village life. You interact with more than 10 unique NPCs, each with their own daily routine, You can grow rare ingredients, fish, and complete tasks to help the village thrive. At night, you venture into procedurally generated dungeons, which ensures that every run feels different with new puzzles, enemies, and treasures each time. Beyond the village itself, you're free to explore forests, caves, and beach areas in a fully open world, making the experience feel surprisingly expansive for an indie RPG. This is the moment in the video where I get completely lost trying to talk about a game that's almost legendary even though I don't really know the series. Let's talk about The Legend of Heroes GARGVA. From what I managed to understand, the game takes place within stories from earlier titles, since it works almost like a remake of the older games, at least when it comes to the story. Unlike the original games, which were purely turn-based, this remake uses a semi-automatic strategic combat system where positioning and knowing the right moment to use skills and ultimates are the key to victory. You can recruit heroes from all three eras of the GARGVA trilogy to form a true dream team. I honestly feel like this game probably works best for players who already know the series, but even as someone who never played the originals, I still found it interesting, so I definitely think it's worth giving it a try. Valkyrie Profile Lenneth is the definitive version of one of the most cult classic and innovative JRPGs of all time, and yes, it also has an Android version. Originally released for the PlayStation 1 and later ported to the PSP, the game also received its mobile port in 2025. You control Lenneth, one of the three Valkyries. She's given a mission by Odin Ragnarok. The end of the world is approaching and you must descend into the human world Midgard to collect the souls of fallen warriors known as Einherjar to fight in the army of Asgard. The game is especially famous for its death scenes. Before recruiting a hero, you witness their final moments in life, which are often tragic, unjust, or deeply heroic. You must train these warriors and from time to time decide which ones will be sent to Valhalla to meet Odin's demands. Long before Where Winds Meet, World of Kung Fu is a classic RPG that transports players into ancient China, fully focused on traditional martial arts and wuxia culture. The story begins during a fragile period of peace between major factions of ancient China, which is soon threatened by dark forces. You step into the role of a character who must develop their martial skills, recruit allies, and travel across a land filled with ancient cities. The game uses turn-based strategic combat. You build a team of warriors and face enemies using a massive variety of techniques. There are more than 300 special skills and 350 unique traits, allowing you to create highly personalized fighting styles. The choices you make directly influence the course of the story. There are multiple narrative branches and several different endings, giving the game strong replay value and a lot of depth in its storytelling. Currently only ZENONIA 5 and ZENONIA 4 are available on the Play Store, but this series is without a doubt one of the true Android classics and it's something you absolutely need to play. The story takes place a long time after the events of ZENONIA 4. The world seems to be at peace, but the seeds of corruption and human selfishness begin to grow once again. The elites start exploiting the poor and darkness slowly returns. Unlike some earlier entries in the series that had a fixed protagonist, ZENONIA 5 lets you choose between 4 different heroes, each with very distinct combat styles. At the peak of its popularity, the game was famous for its global PvP, where you fought against other players' avatars, and for its raid battles against colossal bosses. But here's a really interesting detail. Somehow, some divine being managed to remaster ZENONIA 1, ZENONIA 2 and ZENONIA 3 and made them available on Reddit, and they're working perfectly like a solid 10 out of 10. And that's it for the list. If you love pixel art RPGs on Android, these games prove that you don't need cutting-edge hardware to have deep gameplay, great stories and hundreds of hours of fun. And I'll see you in the next one.